my god, we need a new Superman! Could that be you? Today on the Superhero Forge podcast, we talk about the fitness history of the on-screen Supermen and what we can learn from them to get you in phenomenal shape. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Superhero Forge podcast, where we help geeks, gamers, and cosplayers lose fat, get stronger, and become empowered in the bodies they're in. I'm Troy Bushido, longtime personal trainer, still a rookie cosplayer, and I gotta admit it, I'm more of a Batman fan than a Superman fan, but we do what we gotta do, Here at Superhero Forge, we do coaching on an individual basis using remote technology, app-based coaching, and one-on-one attention to get you in the best shape of your life, inside and out, using our fandoms, our inspiration as our motivation. Just as a reminder, if you like this kind of content, be sure to like and subscribe. And keep in mind, today's episode is more of a podcast episode. So feel free to just put your device down, play me in the background, and do whatever you want to. Cook, clean, work out, geek out. I don't mind being in the background voice while you paint Gundam models or a game. It's whatever you want to do. So, at the time of this recording, we lost our Superman. Basically, James Gunn put the kibosh on the whole Henry Cavill reign as Superman. And quite frankly, if I was The Rock, if I was $7 Productions, I'd be pissed. They put so much effort into reviving Henry Cavill's career, making sure it doesn't derail, making sure it still had a lot of success with like the Mission Impossible movies, The Witcher, where he could be a superstar in the same caliber as the mainstay of $7 Productions, The Rock. For those of you who don't know, $7 Productions is the management company behind The Rock and was behind a lot of his success for the past decade and a half. Now, we'll talk more about Henry Cavill and his Superman journey, but just off the top of my head, why? Henry Cavill got the short end of the stick out of any Superman actor. I'm even talking about Brandon Routh. At least Brandon Routh had a Superman that sounded, looked, walked, and talked like a Superman. He wasn't having to develop himself into a Superman. In fact, we already had that in Tom Welling. God, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. I'm talking about all of these Supermen all at once, but let's just go step by step. You guys are here. We're here to talk about fitness. We're here to talk about motivation. And you can't hate on Henry Cavill's optimism, his poise. He's got that farm boy innocence like a Clark Kent. I mean, he's a big old nerd. He almost missed the Superman audition because he was in a WoW raid, as legends say. That's one thing we can learn from him and his reign is just keep an open mind, keep optimistic. The next opportunity is just one piece of hard work away. So, let's think back on all the Supermen, what they did to get themselves in shape, and what small lessons, tips, and tricks we can take from that. Start working backwards with Henry. One thing I learned from Henry Cavill is a very simple tip. Bigger isn't stronger. Stronger is stronger. They could be two different fitness goals. It just depends on how the body's going to react with the strength training, with the programming, and with the diet. Now, let's put a little more context in here. During Justice League and during Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, the trainer behind Henry Cavill was Mark Twight, the guy behind the cast of 300. He was a CrossFit-esque, powerlifting-esque coach. He loved training his clients on something called relative strength. How strong were you compared to your body weight? Now, yes, Henry had to put on some muscle. Yes, Henry had to stay lean and stay very strong. But if you've seen some of his training methods, it worked on overall athleticism and conditioning, not so much hypertrophy, aka muscle building. He didn't get that type of muscle building training until after Justice League, when he got signed by $7 Productions. The trainer behind $7 Productions, Dave Rienzi, is part of The Rock's entourage. And if you went from being trained by an athlete-esque, super lean, cast of 300 trainer to going to the king of building bodies, it's gonna take a different shape. Now, what I've seen with Henry Cavill is this. He, in Justice League and in Superman, he was lean, but he wasn't huge. He wasn't jacked. In The Witcher, he got jacked. He would probably have been training with Dave Rienzi for at least a year at that point, and they really used the strength as a foundation to give him his size. So, the biggest lesson here is that no matter if your goal is muscle tone or your goal is muscle building, strength comes first. You'll have to get stronger no matter what. Strength is everything. Now, Henry Cavill proved that with a more leaner diet, with a more athletic thesis, for lack of a better word, with his strength training. You know, he could be light and lean compared to Dave Rienzi, who will just put on size with you. So, if you're just looking to get toned, get stronger. If you're looking to get bigger, get stronger, and then get bigger, along with getting stronger. Hey guys, this is Troy in the editing booth. I forgot a giant, huge detail when it comes to getting stronger versus getting bigger and getting stronger. It's going to be the rep range. Look, you can get stronger, you can put on muscle if you increase either the weight or the repetitions of any given compound exercise, such as bench press, squat, deadlifts, rows, and pull-ups, things that put on a lot of muscle at once. But when you're just getting stronger, you're going to be looking for lower repetitions with a bit more heavier weight, probably about 85% of your 1 rep maximum. To put on muscle, you could do the same rep range and add a calorie surplus, meaning eat more than you burn. But for a lot of people that are just trying to pack on muscle, a lot of times rep ranges will be between 8 to about 15 repetitions. Now, for best results, you're going to want to get a bit of both. And once again, your diet will dictate if it's muscle tone, using a calorie deficit, or muscle building, which is a calorie surplus. Hopefully I illustrated more of that points. So, back to the podcast. Moving on from Henry Cavill, we go to the next Superman, Brandon Routh. You can typically see him in Legends of Tomorrow, where he still had that shape of Superman many years later, many years after his singular Superman movie was done. Now, the big lesson I got from Brandon Routh is to adapt your routine as you age and evolve. So going from Superman to Scott Pilgrim vs. the World to Roy Palmer, it took a lot of years. So Brandon changed the way he trained and the way he dieted to adapt to the body as it ages to retain his muscle. So for example, to become Superman, he went from a basketball playing, soccer playing, very lean, somewhat skinny athlete to put on a lot of muscle. And he admitted in his early 20s or his mid 20s, whenever he did Superman, he did a high carb, high protein diet that really helped front load all that energy into the muscle building efforts. Once he got the muscle, and to maintain the muscle as he aged, he went to something he admitted be a bulletproof paleo diet. What's a bulletproof diet? What's a paleo diet? Let me break this down. A bulletproof diet was based on the brand Bulletproof Coffee, where you take simple fats such as butters and heavy cream, whipping cream, and add it to your coffee to make your coffee less carb-based and more fat-based. Do I agree with it? It's kind of overrated if you ask me, but you know what it does is, as he ages, he let his body front load his energy with fats. Now fats are a more longer term, longer lasting energy source than carbohydrates, but carbohydrates is more of a fast acting energy source. So what Brandon would do nowadays as Roy Palmer or Crisis Superman, Crisis on Infinite Earth Superman, is start his day with a fat and protein based diet and then backload his day with a carb and protein diet. This helped him get more steady stream of energy throughout the day, because having burst, having young, powerful energy when he was younger, it was relevant when he was younger. Having more steady energy was more important to him as he aged. As things go on, you will change things. Everything works, but nothing works forever. Keep that in mind when you create your fitness routines. Now, during my research, I couldn't find anything on Dean Cain or Tom Welling, whatever routines they did. they did something fairly sensible to what was going on at that time. Here's the thing about the fitness industry back in the 90s and late 80s. The only Hollywood celebrity showing off his routine was, well, two people, Schwarzenegger and Stallone. Most muscle magazines and fitness magazines had fitness models and had trainers and had fitness writers. No one ever decided to go to a trainer and say, hey, how did you train celebrity ABC to get in shape? Most superhero-based coaching didn't really get popular until the late 90s, early 2000s with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. So with Dean Cain being in the early 90s, Tom Welling being in the late 90s, early 2000s, you know, talks about their routines just weren't there. I couldn't find a dang thing about them. But for some reason, I was able to get a lot of information on who was arguably the best Superman, Christopher Reeves. Now, the biggest lesson that I learned from Christopher Reeves' workout routine to become Superman is start with the basics, then adapt from there. Here's some context about Christopher Reeve. He was a relatively skinny, tall actor. Athletically speaking, he loved playing tennis, so he didn't have a lot of muscle on his frame. In fact, he only was able to succeed in his interviews and his auditions as Superman by padding out his sweaters and making himself look a bit puffier and look a little bit bigger. Once they colored his hair a bit darker, because he was naturally, I think, either a brunette or a redhead, I'm not sure. They had his hair darker, they had him do screen tests. He was able to show presence and a combination of an innocence and maturity. So he had the vibe right. But they're like, man, can you put on some weight? Can you put on some muscle before we get filming? And he was like, yeah. You see, this was before the days of muscle suits, which are now a big thing nowadays. So get this. Christopher Reeve's trainer to become Superman was none other than Darth Vader. He taught him the power of the dark side, taught the anger, fear, aggression. He was their muscles' father. Yeah, I said a joke, but you know what? I'm not kidding. OG Darth Vader suit actor David Prowse trained Superman. Yeah, let that sit. Let that sink in for a second. Just weird trivia of Hollywood, right? So the things Christopher Reeve did was very, very basic dumbbell, barbell, strength training stuff. This was golden era bodybuilding. The places Christopher Reeve trained wasn't like super well equipped, but it did the job. Like I said, a lot of barbell, a lot of dumbbell movement, a lot of basics, curls, shrugs, even using barbells to do clean and jerks, shoulder presses, military presses, you know, things that just slinging the iron, things that you can do to just sling that iron. His diet was very high in protein and he ate 4 times a day. And if he wasn't able to eat, he used supplementation, which I can only imagine how bad that tasted. I couldn't imagine how protein drinks tasted back in the 70s. I might have to look up like the ingredients of those things. But the problem with Christopher Reeves was he had an infamously fast metabolism. He was able to eat ice cream to put on mass. Some of us may not have that privilege, but if you are some guy out there who is super skinny, who is super thin boned and thinking I can't put on size, you know, stick with basic things. Protein in your diet, eat 3 times a day with an additional 4th of either supplementation or another meal, and lift that heavy iron. Circling back to Henry Cavill, get stronger. Stronger, then get bigger. If you liked this trip down Superman's memory lane, be sure to like and subscribe. And look, even the best Superman needed guidance. We had Mark Twight on here. We had Brandon Routh's trainer. I forgot his name. We had Darth Vader himself. See, this is why we do coaching here at Superhero Forge. Every hero needs a little bit of a coach to get them started. Look, even in the world of Superman, his community of like-minded people, of supporters, they were the anchor to all of his power. If it wasn't Superman's parents in Kansas, if it wasn't for Lois, if it wasn't for the Justice League, all those people anchored Superman to be the best he could be. Look, when you can do anything and everything, the people in your life help guide you on the things you actually should do. So let Superhero Forge be the guide for you in your fitness journey. If you want more information about that, go ahead and hit the link in the description below. But in the meantime, take a look at the other videos on this channel, and I'll talk to you soon.